Hey, Sara, can you hear us?
Hello, everyone. Hi, Sara. So we just wait for a minute or two for others to join. Is it okay?
Sure.
Hello, Sara.
Hi. Okay, so we are waiting a little bit for other people to join.
Yes.
Great. Can you see me?
Yes, we can see you. Would you like to share your screen? So I will just stop sharing.
Here you go. Give me a second. Yes, so it will be mostly, I have a talk, so I don't have a presentation because I wanted to talk about the best practices and then after that, open it to Q&A.
We're very excited for the talk.
Thank you.
Are you sharing your screen?
No, I'm not sharing any screen.
Okay, I just had that doubt because I have just changed, like you can share your screen. So yes, I have changed the setting now.
Awesome. Let me know when we can get started.
Sure, we just wait for 2 minutes till it becomes 9:05 over here, and then we can start. So we'll start now. I'll just give a small introduction and then we will start. So hello everyone, a very warm welcome to all of you. We are very excited to have Sara Ahmadian as a speaker today. Sara is mentor, advisor, and supporter of Phase Ventures and PhazeRo, and also she's the founder of NR Ventures. Quality is a crucial parameter that separates a company from its competitors. By using the quality management tools, we can yield better products and services. So this is what today's talk is going to be about. We're really very excited, Sara, and the floor is yours now.
Great, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I'm a big supporter of PhazeRo and PhazeVenture, and I was involved from the beginning, and very proud of what we have achieved so far in Oman, and looking forward to doing more there. I see a lot of potential. So that's why I suggested to Masood to talk about quality management, which is very important when it comes to creating the ecosystem, having right software engineers, and also having the best practices to be able to have quality engineering, software engineering technically. So I'm going to talk about my background a little bit, and then talk about a couple of best practices that I think is very important. A lot of you guys might know these things, but I would love to review it a little bit more. And then at the end, I will open it to questions. As you know, quality management in the software world can be very different from one company to another company, depends on the size and all those things. So very important for me to answer the questions based on your specific case. So my background, I studied computer science, and then my master was quality engineering. There are not many universities that has that, but there was one university in Canada that has a master's degree, specifically in quality system engineering. I think there are more universities adding that, but even in the US and Canada, they're not really focused on the quality system specifically. So I was one of the first people who studied that in my master's degrees. And I really focused on that. My career at the beginning was mostly quality management and quality engineering in software companies, from really big ones like SAP, which is a huge German company, to like small startups in Silicon Valley. And then I started my own company, which was a travel AI company. And, from the beginning, I was thinking about the quality management in the company from like day one. And then now that like I'm like investing on companies and looking at a lot of like startups, always look at like the quality of their product as well. So that's how my brain works these days. So really wanted to like have a talk to you about how you can think about quality a little bit as well. So one thing that I wanted to mention is that a lot of people ask when it comes to quality management, quality management is what are the best practices and how we can use quality management in the software cycle. Depends on what you use. I believe that like agile management is what you guys use, and you have a Scrum and a Sprint and all those things. From day one of like quality, from day one of your cycle, you have to think about the quality of your software. But talking about it is really easy, but like how to do it. So the question is where your product stands. So I give you an example. When I started my own company, it was a startup and a product that has never been in the market before, right? So we had to like create something and then think about the go-to-market strategy, and then think about what's going to happen next. Like when our product is there, is people going to like it or not? Do we have to iterate and like create totally different things? Do we have to pivot and create totally different product? So it was very hard to think about the quality as well, because we didn't have that many engineers, like we didn't have that many resources. We didn't even know if our product is going to be acceptable by the market. So, and we didn't have that many resources. So like I was thinking, so should I put my engineers to write unit tests, or should I put my engineers to like create new features? These are really, really hard questions to ask. Why it was very hard for me to answer that question, one of the reasons was because I was working on another startup before, and that startup decided to just, write code and go to market and not even think about the quality, no unit tests, no tests whatsoever. And when I joined a startup as a quality management manager, like engineer, it was such a mess. Like the product was already there. There was like no unit test, no regression, nothing on there. And there was so many bugs. All our clients were really like upset about like all these things that happening in our product. And whenever we create a new feature, we will like break everything else. And I had to, I had to come into the a mess project technically to fix that. And I was so scared that in my startup I will have the same issue. We had to rewrite all the unit tests. We had to rewrite all the code again. And it actually came back to bite us like really bad. And it created a lot of like friction with our customers because we didn't think about the product, the quality of the product from the beginning. And when I talked to the founders, they said, because we didn't know if this product is gonna, even be acceptable in the market. We were just wanted to be agile. We just wanted to like be out there. And when I started my own company, I noticed that I felt the same thing. I was like, I just want to be out there. I want to be in the market. Like, I don't want to think about like, spending so much time and energy on the quality. So finding that balance was really hard. So what I noticed, what I did in my company technically was like writing the basic unit tests from day one, especially for features that are very important. And it will be most likely in the product forever. I really push my engineers to do that. And the funny thing was that, especially engineers that work for startups, they don't like to write unit tests or any tests whatsoever. They just want to like create and just do like literally create features, because writing tests can be definitely boring, especially for creative engineers. So pushing them was one other thing to like how I can like make sure that they're happy and also care about the quality of the products that we are giving to the market. So one thing that I really want to know about you, and I want to answer in the question and in the Q&A part, is how do you see this balance? And depends on like what your product is. That can be very, very different. Like how to figure out a strategy that you have the quality, but at the same time, you make sure that you don't spend too much time and energy and resources on it. In the consulting world is a little bit different as well. So if you have a client that wants you to create an app for them, because you're not creating a product to go to market, the quality, thinking about the quality will be a little bit different. So as I mentioned, if you are a startup and you're creating your own product, you have to figure out how to go to market. Things might change. You might pivot totally to a different product. So spending so much time in quality management can be a little bit too much and can be like using too much of your little resources that you have. But if you have a client that clearly know what to do and what they want, the quality management part will be easier to manage. Although in some case scenarios, as you guys probably know, even when your client know what they want, at the end, when you show them the product, they're like, oh, this is not what we want, right? But it's very important when you have a client that they want, they know what they want, to show them that that you thought about the quality from the beginning, from the regression tests that you have to write to the unit tests, and then like every time that you do the sprint, like make sure that you test all the tests that you wrote there, and then also make sure that you didn't break your any of the things that the new feature didn't break any of the other features that you had from before. And that's the topic that a lot of people ask about, because when it comes to testing, it's like, how many percentage of my testing should be automated, and how many should be basically manual, which is a very struggle for even big companies and small companies or projects. So I would love to talk about that a little bit too. And I tell you about my experience in startups and big companies. So based on what I realized and in different companies, is like, it's really important to have the manual testing as well. So a lot of people like really, I mean, what I see in Silicon Valley, which is really funny, there are companies that like really only focus on manual testing and they don't do automation. And there are some that like only do automation and don't do manual testing. Or they outsource the manual testing to another country, like, you know, in India or something, that is like not part of the team or not part of the Scrum. And that's because they said, oh, it's manual testing, right? But that create problems for them too. So how you can combine these two things in your team and in your sprint all the time, like you know, sometimes you have 2 weeks of sprint, so every time you have to like retest everything, you have to do regression testing, and then you have to manually test things. So here, best practices that what I've seen is like a lot of companies have engineers who write the code, they write the unit test as well. So they don't pass it to another engineer to write it. The engineer who wrote a specific code, like for example for sign-in, when they write the code for sign-in, they write the test, the unit test for signing. So if that test break, means that that code doesn't work, or something is wrong, or another feature break that specific code. And then they have a team of manual testers who go and work directly with that engineer and test everything, write all the tests like manually, and then like test it. That's one way of doing it. It's quite common here. What I notice is like having the engineer to write it, and then the manual tester to be with the engineer together, testing it, writing it. And even like the manual tester is thinking about the scenarios, how this specific feature might break, right? So the manual tester is the person who comes up with the ideas and come up with like the test, like the test cases that you write. So this worked very well. I really like this approach. And for this, you need like at least one manual tester per each team that you have in your sprint. The other approach, but one bad thing about this approach is usually the engineers who write the code, they don't like to write the unit test. They like just really want to pass it to someone else. They just want to write their code. And really, like I've seen how struggle it is for a lot of these engineers to write it, and really make them not that happy while they're doing it. And you know, it can affect their definitely happiness and their work. The other approach is somebody write all the features, and then you have another test engineer who write the test, like unit test, and then that person also manually tests, which will be very difficult to have just one person to do that. So you might need two software tester who does that, which will be costly for the company. So so what I did was like the first method to use like the engineers to write the code, and I had one person who was like totally focusing on manual testing and writing the test cases. And the other questions the other topic that I wanted to talk about is outsourcing quality engineering, because that's a very big topic these days, specifically with, we all work remotely. So a lot of managers thinking about like, why not like having a team which is cheaper, like manual tester team in another country. So what I've noticed with this approach, which is like used right now more after COVID and remote working, is a lot of times that team is like working with other companies, and that would be difficult because they're not part of your team. And a lot of like companies just hire a manual tester company to like come and as a third party to come and do this kind of thing. And that approach definitely doesn't work as well, and have a lot of issues with coordinating with the software engineers and thinking about like, how to write those tests. And you really need to have a team that is part of your sprint every single day. So you can't like just pass your tests to like a third party country to like manually test your stuff. They have to be every day working with team, and they have to be part of the team. They have to make a decision about even the spec, like, the manual tester in your team, they have to work with the product managers. They have to look at the spec and say, this is a specific feature they might break. This is specific other features that we have. So they have to be very on top of what's going on in the company and be part of the team. And a lot of companies, the startups, they make that mistake that like, they outsource without like putting those manual testers or even automation tests part of the company. They're like, oh, we just outsource this, and somebody in another country is gonna do all the manual tests and like send us what the problem is. But we have proven here that approach really doesn't work, and it really decrease the quality of the product that you have. So all I wanted to mention here specifically is like the best practices that so far we have found that works with the agile management is having in-house engineer. It can be anywhere because it's remote, but they have to be part of the team and be involved in every single step from when you write the spec. They have to be involved. They have to be in room until you do the regression test at the end of the cycle. And it needs to be the combination of manual test and automation. Because a lot of people try to like really get rid of manual testing. It has been done so many times for 20 years now, and it just does not work. Like, you have different browsers, you have to test. You have to like have do a minimal manual testing at the end, but really minimize the amount of manual testing by having enough unit tests and all the automation behind it. So I hope this helps you to understand a little bit about the best practices. I would love to answer any questions that you have, because it depends on where you are with your quality management. I would love to see how I can help with that.
Thank you so much. So do we have any questions?
I guess I'll start with a relatively simple one. As we kind of grow out the kind of QA, let's say, capabilities, what I'm hearing is that we definitely should have a QA engineer embedded with the team. And what would then you say is sort of the key attributes of a really good quality engineer? What are the things that we should be looking out for?
Sure. So, some people think like, I can just hire someone like that doesn't have any software engineering background to, like, let's talk about the manual testing. To do the manual test, be part of the team. And I've seen that being tested. The problem with that is like you really need a software engineer, somebody who understands testing and have the engineering mind to come up with the scenarios of like how this specific feature can get broken. Like what's going to happen if we add this specific feature to our new version of our software, right? So you really need to have someone who is a critical thinker and think about different scenarios, like have really that mindset of like thinking about like really weird that scenarios that might happen in a specific device in a specific country, in a specific language, like thinking about like all the scenarios, which, not everybody has that mindset, but I think engineering mindset would definitely help. And that like, that differentiate a person that you want to hire, to have that critical thinking, to think about, definitely have software engineering background to be able to write unit tests. They don't need to be like amazing coders, because writing tests is much easier than writing like new features, but they have to have that mindset of like thinking about all the scenarios that might break a specific feature, and also thinking about like how they can add values in the spec, and think about like if we add this specific feature tomorrow to the new version of the software, it might break like the most important feature that we have. We might not be able to sign in, right? Because this specific feature, the code is related to the sign-in code, which is one of the most important part. Like if you can't sign in, you can't, use our product. So we need a person who like be able to have this conversation.
Makes sense. Clear.
I have a question. Actually, when we are talking about the quality of the software, I totally agree with you. The developer writing the unit tests, all of them are the main concern. But my question is about how we are able to evaluate the quality of or manager or head of our teams for the software, how we are able to evaluate their quality and how we are able to improve their quality. They have a huge role for developing the software, actually.
So you mean the manager, the team lead of the?
Yes, the manager, the team lead, yeah.
Yeah, so the team lead is very important because they have to, kind of glue everyone together, right? Make sure that everyone is working on that specific feature that you're getting out for the next version. One thing that is really important is like for them is to make sure that these people talk to each other. What I noticed with like, small sprint team, usually there is 5. There's one tester, there's 1 or 2 software engineer, and there's a team lead who is like managing all those things, and is a product manager, right? A lot of times these 5 people, they don't talk to each other properly, right? So the team lead needs to like make sure that all these people talk to each other properly, make sure that the spec that the product manager write will be approved by the tester. So tester and product manager needs to talk to each other all the time, right? Which, like, the team lead job is like make sure that they talk to each other. When the product manager is writing the spec, she or he is gonna like talk to make sure that the test for that spec is going to be written while the software engineer is writing the code. So you don't waste time. You don't wait until the software engineer is writing the code and then you write the test, because then you're gonna like, lose like days or weeks. So that's the way that the team lead can help, like make sure all these people are working together. I don't know if you guys have that. Like, do you have in your team a product manager, 2 engineers, and a tester, and a team lead? That's how your team manage?
Actually, we have
No.
team lead and no, we don't have.
No, go ahead. Sorry, it was a lag. I was going to say no about the tester. Go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to say yes, we have team lead, project manager, but we don't have a specific role as a tester.
Yeah, it's very good to think about it. I understand it's hard from the beginning to like spend energy and time on that, but even like one person in a team that is specifically writing the test and also doing like the test cases, all the test scenarios can like really save so much headache, money, and resources in the future for you. Especially if you have a product that is going to be out there for years and years. Even with like client-based products, because you have to support them after. So thinking about adding that to your team can make the life of software engineer also better, because software engineers hate to see bugs all the time and like fixing bugs. They want to spend their time writing new features, not always fixing bugs. So do you have any strategy to add that to your team? What is your vision for the quality?
I can maybe hop in there. So, I mean, initially there was no strategy, but now you're kind of like, how do you say? I have some thoughts basically on maybe potential ways for us to get started immediately. And it sounds like you just probably should have maybe a rotation or something, a member of the teams where someone is doing that as the project is going, right? So maybe some kind of rotation for someone to write the test cases, maybe do the manual testing, and then maybe maybe you rotate as a temporary measure. I guess that's something that's popping into my head. I don't know what your thoughts are when it comes to that.
Yes,
Since
definitely.
we don't have anybody dedicated.
I've seen that in startups because they don't have resources yet. And that definitely is better than nothing. It would definitely increase your quality significantly. It will be a little bit confusing for that person, but I think if you have even one person to like rotate like that, you will see a huge difference between the quality and the number of bugs that comes from the production back to development, and that can be really good for overall health and happiness of your engineering team.
I have a question. So until like we get that role specifically, like as a quality engineer, how can we upskill our engineers to have those quality management practices with development, like before having that person in seat?
So one thing that they can do is like every time that they write a feature, they write a unit test. I don't know if you guys do that right now. So I would love to know, is that the case?
Mostly no.
That's it. Yeah, depends on the project for sure. Yeah, that's goes, but mostly no for sure. Agreed.
I know that they would not like it. Like I've never met a software engineer who likes to write unit tests. They just don't like it, right? So the team lead should really focus on make sure that specifically for really important features, if you don't want to write it for anyone, I mean, like you should write it for every feature that you create. But the team lead and the product manager, they should make sure that for specifically critical features, you definitely write the unit test and you run it after each version of the software to make sure it's not broken. That specifically can increase your quality. Like if you only do it for like a specific feature, 30 to 40%, which is huge, right? And it doesn't take that long. Like, you write a feature, you can think about it. If you don't have a tester to write the test cases, as a software engineer, you can still think about the basic test cases and write the unit test. In the ideal world, it would be really great if you have a tester beside you to come up with all the test cases. But since you don't have that, at least think about the basic one and write the test unit. The good thing about this thing is like in the future, if you hire a tester, they can like add on top of that and like create like, scenarios that doesn't happen every day, or like scenarios that are, really out of box. But if you can write at least a couple of unit tests for basic scenarios, that can increase the quality of your software.
I'm curious about. Yep.
Oh, yes. Go ahead. I was just asking anyone has any more questions.
Oh yeah, I do. One more. Sorry. So curious now on your thoughts a little bit more regarding, because the main challenge with us is going to be, let's say, managing clients when it comes to that. So customers, they don't care. They see, at least a lot of the ones that we might interact with don't care about, well, they care about quality at the end. But when you start the projects, let's say selling, it's like, okay, in their minds, like, why am I paying money for not development, right? They want you to build, and everything else is like, why are we wasting time? I'm paying for the building, if that makes sense. Just curious, is that
For
in
sure,
your
I've
mind, is
seen
that just the wrong partner, or what do you think?
No, I've seen that so many times because, for in their mind is like, oh, I just want to build, I want to like create new features, like create this app. So in the negotiation part, you have to, tell them that this is part of building, like, we have to have this. Otherwise, the quality of our software will be suffered. This is part of like building, right? And you have to like really convince them because they don't know. What they see is like, okay, I'm paying you, so develop this specific feature for me. But our job is like really to educate our client and tell them that like they need like this specific, testers. They need these people to be on board, and they have to pay for it to be able to finish the project. It's just part of the project. So I think that's part of the negotiation, and it's very, very common that people think like that. But yeah, that's the job of people who are negotiating the terms with the client to make sure that you're not pushing them to pay a lot for that, but it's just part of it. It's part of development. Like you have a product manager in your team. Why? Because it's necessary. It's the same thing. You need to have a tester as well. You can't just have software engineers writing everything.
Yes, thank you so much. So do we have any other questions?
Actually, I have one, but it's not related to software specifically. It's in general. I would like to verify this belief that I have about the quality, is it right or not? Actually, I'm thinking about the quality that if a person has high quality, no matter he is developing a code or cleaning a room, both of them provide the result of both of them in a high quality possible. I don't know it's a right belief or not. I would like to know your feedback about that.
Sorry, you mean the quality of the person that you're hiring?
Yes, actually, this is a general belief that I have, that if a person is high quality, he works with a specific quality, no matter what is the job. And if we ask him to clean somewhere, he will done this work perfectly. If we ask him to develop a code, he will develop perfectly. And this is something about the personality of the person. It's not just, for example, he or she can develop a code with not acceptable quality, but in the other things, he provide the result really high quality.
I get it, but I don't think that's the case in the quality management and software. Well, the reason is because you have to give them the tools, and you have to give them, even if you hire the best engineer in the world, like with the best quality and best manner, they still, if you write another software engineer comes and write another code, it will break his code, right? It's not about the person or the way that they write the code. It's the whole process. So the best software engineers in the world, they still, like, even if they don't make any mistakes, other features that are connected to that feature, it can break, right? If you do the same feature in a different browser, you might see it doesn't work. So these two things necessarily not related to each other. And if you literally hire the best engineers in the world and just think that, like, okay, then we don't have to have the quality management, it would never work. So yeah.
I see. Thank you.
We have a question from Mohanad. So do you want to ask, Mohanad?
Yes. Thank you for the talk. And my question will be on how to deal with the testing when, let's say, with this scenario where we have like a product and there is so many breaking change during the development, and what will be the best strategy to write test cases where we know there will be so many breaking change to the APIs?
Yeah, that's what I mentioned in the startups world. So one thing that you have to do with the test cases is, like, I don't know if you guys maintain a list of test cases or not, but having a test cases that you constantly add. So that's why a tester, that's another job of the tester. Every single day, they should write another test case. And then they prioritize it, P1, P2, P3. The P1 test cases, they have to be tested every time manually, right, after each cycle is finished. The P2 and P3 tested, it depends on, like, if you touch like a specific feature, then you have to go to that specific feature and see if it has been affected. So really having those test cases like have numbers and like priorities, and there are some features that whenever you write a new feature can like break those features. So that And they're very important. As I said, it might be signing payments, right? Payment is important. If you break the payment, then you have to test the payment after every new version. But it's impractical and impossible to test everything. So it's like having that priority in your test cases is extremely important.
Thank you.
Guys, do you have that priority for all the test cases yet? Did you think about it?
Not yet. No, I think we're still at, let's say, at the beginning, where we actually should be now keeping track of test cases as we go, as we're building. And then now this is another point, which is we got to prioritize them. I'll say which test cases are higher priority and which one are low. So these are, I'm writing notes, let's say.
Awesome, great. I think this is a good talk because you guys haven't really started it, so this might just open up your mind to think about it. And I'm happy to when you're a little bit ahead to talk about these details, because there's so many other details about the test cases, the testers, how we manage them, how we integrate them to the team, and all those things that I'm happy to help with. But yeah, this talk might help you a little bit to think about it.
We have one more question from Saud. So you can go ahead, Saud.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Sara. Thank you, Naam. It's so enlightening so far. My question is actually about a debate we've had recently regarding when to actually write the unit test. So there's this argument that sometimes the time does not permit to write unit test at the beginning of the project, but we need to do it anyways. So is there any justification and or reason to write it at the end?
No, it's not the best practices. The best way is just writing it while you're writing the feature, because your mind is fresh. You think about that specific feature, you think about the unit test. Some people do that, but it will haunt you in the future, and it will just you think that you're saving time, but you're not really saving time. So I would say if you really want to focus on the time and energy of your software engineers, make sure that the features that are really critical and important, they have unit tests for now, and then go toward the best practices of writing unit tests for literally everything that you write. I know that's a little bit too much right now for you guys, but how about starting from the most important feature? Make sure that they write the unit test right, not at the end, the beginning, and it makes your life easier at the end. So definitely recommend that.
Got it. Thanks.
So we have any more questions, or should I end this end the session?
Yeah, I'm happy to do another one. I'm happy to do another talk when you guys are a little bit ahead, but I think this was a really good start. And also I'm available by email. You can share my email if you have specific questions. I would love to be part of this journey for you, because it's a journey to add quality to your and quality management to your team. And I'll be available for any questions that you have in the future.
Thank you. Yeah, I think we're gonna experiment with something coming soon. I already have something in my mind, and yeah, it would be really interesting to have another discussion after we've experimented, and that will give us kind of even more things to discuss, see what our success and failures are. So yeah, thanks.
Of course, I know it's late over there, so I'm as I said, I'm available to talk later, but it's good to see your progress a little bit, and then we can talk about all the challenges that comes with all those things.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Sarah. Appreciate your time. And yeah, we'll definitely stay connected. And you still owe us a visit. So we're waiting for you to come out here in person.
Yeah, I might actually in February, so I'll let you know, and that would be great. So then I can work like directly with the team and see where you are.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Good night.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night.
All right.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.